Hello, everyone. My name is Lindsay Lawless. I've been with the IS department with a couple dealerships since 2013. Um, we're going to be going over some various AMS topics today in this video. So I'm going to go over, introduce our speakers, and then maybe touch on a couple of the new products coming from John Deere, and then we'll get started with the rest of the video. Um, our first speaker we're going to have is Alex Cutts, who joined our AMS department in late spring of 2021. Alex will be covering the Gen 4 display newest software update 21-3 for all of the Gen 4 displays, which is your V2 processors and your 4240s and 4640s, as well as the major changes that have come with the Operations Center this past January. Our next speaker will be Paul Caney, who joined our IS department in February of 21. Paul will be covering some of the general settings to check in the Operations Center to make sure everything's ready so you can hit the ground running when you go to create your setup files and your work planner files within the Operations Center. Our next speaker will be Jenna Elliman, who joined our IS team in January of 2020. Jenna will be continuing where Paul left off, and she will be covering setup file creation as well as how to set up the work planner files for your Gen 4 displays. After that, Jenna will also be going over our 2022 support packages because we have some changes from our 2021 offerings. As some of you would have seen by now, in early January at the Consumer Electronics Show, John Deere released their first fully autonomous tractor that's ready for production. This system uses 6 pairs of stereo cameras mounted around the machine to give it 360 degrees of obstacle detection, as well as the calculation of distance, since those are pairs of cameras to give you the binocular vision from 2 cameras. For a lot more information on that, the press conference that John Deere had from the Consumer Electronics Show really goes into depth. They'll show you the video that everybody's seen on YouTube, but then also they show you the raw input that those stereo cameras see to get you a little bit more information on that autonomous system. Right now, there are a few more things in the works that John Deere is planning to release. Planning to release right around the Commodity Classic this mid-March. Some of those include some updates to that See and Spray Select that we had. So the See and Spray Select would have been the spraying of weeds and fallow ground on the sprayers. They have made some updates to that, as well as some more details on a new receiver and the new receiver offerings coming out after the Starfire 6000. So with that, I will hand it off to Alex, and he will start into his material.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2022 AgPro Spring Clinics. My name is Alex Kutz. I'm an IS consultant from Northern Ohio, and today we're going to be covering the 21-3 Gen 4 update and a couple of the Operations Center updates that have come out in the past 6 months. So let's go ahead, hop into it. We're going to do a few slides, and then we're actually going to jump into Operations Center and take a look at some of those new features.
So the 21-3 Gen 4 update was released in January of 2022. This is compatible with all 4640s, 4600s with the V2 processor, and 4240s. As always, these software updates can be found on Stellar Support, which is Deere's software update website. We have some new compatibility. John Deere has continued to expand the platforms that are compatible with the Gen 4 displays. So the 4640 is now compatible with the 4710, 4720, and 4920 sprayers and spreaders. We have a new map layer. So spray pressure can now be seen for sprayers model year 13 and newer that have a Gen 4 display in them. The Isobus virtual terminal has been updated so that we're now able to reset those terminals from the display with just a push of a button. No more need to go behind the tractor and actually unplug the implement. It can now be done right from the display. The Isobus task controller has been updated as well, so we can now support multiple controllers on a single frame. So if you have a planner that has a pop-up system with a rate controller, and you actually have that planner running through the Isobus too, we can now support both of those. Work Planner now also supports multiple implements on the same frame, so we can go ahead and create that prescription for both planning and fertilization in Operations Center and send it to the tractor that can do it all at once. All right, now it's time to get into some of the Operations Center updates that have come out in the past 6 months. So the first one was in November, and John Deere released Data Manager for Mac OS. So those of you with iMacs or MacBooks are now able to upload your data from your machines on that operating system. We had some Work Planner updates, which Jenna will go over later on. We had a redesign of the land tool. So we have a new table view, new filters, and a user interface overhaul. We now have equipment performance data available to us, both as a map layer and as a summary in-field analyzer. Machines use, productivity, fuel usage, and efficiency are just some of the examples of data that we can now see off of our equipment. We now have additional planner data available to us, again, both as a map layer and as a summary. Previously, these layers were only available through Connect Mobile in the cab, but now with Seedstar 4 electric drive planners, with the mid-model year 22 planner software updates and the most recent Gen 4 21-3 updates, we can actually get that planning data into Operations Center, overlay it with whatever we want. Finally, we have whole farm field reports, so we can easily bulk print maps from Analyze now, as opposed to having to go into each individual field and do that. So let's hop over to Operations Center and take a look at some of these tools. All right, everyone, so we've made it over here to the Operations Center. We're going to take a look at a couple of these updates from November. So over here on the tab bar, if we pull down more, we can see the John Deere Data Manager. If you have a Mac OS, this is where you can go to download that new tool. The biggest thing here is that land update. So if we go over to setup and then land, we can see this new user interface here over on the left hand side. And this map view has also been updated a little bit with some new tools here on the right. Everything you need is all here on this one screen. It's now a lot easier to edit boundaries too. If we just double click on a particular field, the boundaries are immediately pulled up. And if we double click on that boundary, we can edit it very easily. And go back to land here. Another great feature in this new land update is the table view. So with this table view, we can see all of our fields listed with a lot of different attributes. We can easily sort through these fields. If we need to clean up our fields list, that's easy to do too. We can just select all of these here. These are essentially fields that have nothing in them, and then we can select and archive them. This goes the same for boundaries, guidance, and flags as well. So all of these can be found in the table view too. All right, so I've hopped over to the Analyze tab, which can be found under Analyze. We're looking at some seeding that was done in 2021. If we want to do that whole farm field reports, we would just go over to Share and Export, and then select Field Report here. So this would create a report for each of these fields that we've sorted through in the Analyze tab. All right, so now we've hopped over to Field Analyzer, which you can find under the Analyze tab again. I picked out a field here that was planted with the Seedstar 4 planner with the 21-3 update. It also has the planner software of mid-model year 2022. And again, contact your local Ag Pro if you need the planner software updated for that. But now we can see a lot of this Connect Mobile data that used to only be in the cab in Operations Center after we planted. So right now we have our applied rate on, but we can switch that to a whole bunch of new data layers here. So say seed spacing, we're now able to say that across the whole field. And problem areas and anything like that, we can now pick it out. So we also have a couple new summary data things that we can look at here. So singulation, skips, multiple, seed spacing, rye qualities, all provided for each field that we plant with that Seedstar 4 planner. All right, so the last thing with this update is the equipment performance data. So we're looking at a field here that was harvested with 4 different combines. To take a look at that, we're going to select our map layer here and go to equipment. So we can see the 4 different combines here. We can do a data analysis. So I'm going to select equipment as well. So now we see the work totals for each machine. We can also now go to performance. So this is where we compare the productivity and efficiency of all our machines in the same field. So we can see that the X9 was the most productive here at 19.3 acres per hour, and was also the most fuel efficient, or tied with at least the 790 here at 19.2 gallons per hour. So this is a great way to compare equipment in the field, see how different machines perform relative to the work done. All right, so now we're gonna go back over to the presentation and take a look at the January Operations Center update. All right, so now we're back. The next update that came out was the January Operations Center update. This was a pretty big one because now we only have one field analyzer. So there's no more field analyzer beta and field analyzer. It is all one tool. We can now share the work directly from Field Analyzer, so we can send work data directly to partner organizations from Field Analyzer tab. So if we just want to send them a couple map layers or whatever we need, we can just do those individual fields. We can now do 20 product take mixes on Gen 4 displays. So through the Setup tab, we can create and send take mixes with up to 20 products to Gen 4 displays. The 2630 is still locked to just 6 products, so this is a great reason to upgrade to that Gen 4 display. We had a couple team management updates, so we can delete unused organizations in which all the data will be lost, but in case you have multiple organizations, that would be a great option, and you can archive unused operators. Finally, John Deere has partnered with Razor Tracking, so now you can view support vehicle status and data directly from the Operations Center with a compatible Razor tracking vehicle. So let's hop on over to Operations Center one last time here, take a look at some of these tools. All right, so now we're back in the Operations Center. We're going to take a look at a couple of those January updates. The biggest thing is that there's no such thing as Field Analyzer and Field Analyzer Beta anymore. There's just the Field Analyzer. So we've gotten rid of that beta. It's all become just one tool. Here we can see all of our fields over on the left. The user interface has been updated in Field Analyzer as well. And we can now do all of the functions that we used to be able to do in Field Analyzer Beta in regular Field Analyzer. The next thing is the ability to share work directly from Field Analyzer. So over here in the top bar, we see these different tabs. Under the Share and Export, we're able to share work data with a specific partner organization that we have in team. And we can select what field and work specifically that we want to share. So if you have a crop insurance agent, you just need to share one field with them and you partner with them, you're able to do that now directly from Field Analyzer. We're going to cover the last 2 items here real quick. Under the Setup tab in Operations Center is where we can find our products. This is where we're going to make that new tank mix. For now, the only way to actually get those 20 product tank mixes is in Operations Center. So that functionality will be added to the display in a future software update. But for now, we just had to add a tank mix and we would go through it and make it with our products. We can do up to 20 products again on the Gen 4 display and send that directly to our machine through wireless data transfer. The very final update is under the Team tab. In there, we're able to delete our organization or archive unused operators. That's about all I have for today. I'm going to hand it off to Paul now, who's going to go up through some of those key things you need to know for spraying.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Caney, and I work with the IS department. So we're going to hit a few things today, just going over our basic setup needs for this coming spring. So first, we're going to be hitting our machine implement offsets, making sure everything's in there for offset wise for planing, spraying, making sure our section controls up, and everything's going to be turning on and off like it should be. And then we're going to be going over, going in and making sure our terms and conditions are good. Make sure you are signed up for JD Link Connect for the 4G change that they did. Going over terminals to show that JD Link connectivity is active on your machines that are currently able to do it. And then we have bulk boundary creator, and then going into the land format and creating boundaries, changing field names, and so on like that. So we'll go ahead and get started. So on the left-hand side, we have equipment, and then we have fields. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you where we can go in and make sure that you have offsets within the machines themselves. Because if you don't have the offsets in the machines, your section control, like I already stated, isn't going to work, and your sprayer isn't going to work. So as long as we get that right, we're good. So to go ahead and do that, we're going to go into our tractor tab. So first thing we'll go in, and then we'll find our machine that we'll be using. So we'll be playing with a 7290. So I'm going to select on this machine, and then I'm going to check to make sure that I have offsets in there. So to do this, we can click on details. So within details here, we have a few things. We have alerts. So if you want to see anything current for alert wise, what's going on, remote display access, what that would be is just being able to use any kind of mobile device, being a phone, laptop, or tablet, and being able to view what the guy in the machine is able to see. Not being able to select anything, but just being able to view what he has going on. But right here is what we're after, is offsets. So on offsets down here, I have GPS lateral offset. We're going to leave this one at 0 unless you have the receiver off to the left or right, or if you notice if your tractor does track a little bit off that line and you want to correct it, a permanent correction on the machine itself. But for now, we're going to leave it at 0. Then we have GPS inline offset. So as this picture shows, this is what we're doing. So we're measuring from the GPS receiver to the rear axle. And to enter these information or these offsets in here, you're going to be clicking down here on edit. So on edit, this is lets you change things. So GPS location, if it's right, left, or center. So we're going to put it on center because that's where it's located for this particular machine. And then we're going to put in all these offsets. So make sure that these are good. So we'll get out of here, and then we'll be doing the same thing on our implement side. So as long as you have this stuff in there and to enter this information in, you're going to be clicking on that plus. Now, if these machines they have or these implements do not have active JD-Link on them, they won't be showing in. You're going to have to manually enter them in. So if you just go out to that tool, put in the PIN or the serial number for it, enter this in, and if it's something else other than Deere, planter wise, or sprayer wise, or anything in particular, you don't need to have a pin in there if it doesn't have one. So you need to have it in there for everything with this asterisk here, this black asterisk, you need to have information in there. So after you get that entered in, you have to click on add and it'll automatically populate and put it in there. So we're going to get back into the planner here. So I'm going to select on planner and we'll go to the 1775. So in the 1775, it's the same way. We go in the details. When details loads up, we're going to go in the offsets. And then we'll do the same thing again. Go down here to edit, select on edit, and then enter in your offsets. So if you don't have these in there, make sure that they're in there, especially when you get to where we're going to be doing our setup builder or work planner. You need to have this information in there because when you send it over to the displays, everything they have in that display is pretty much going to be overwritten if it says 2630. So I'm going to click on cancel. So after that information is in there, we'll technically click on save, but I'm going to click on cancel to get out of it. But that would be the manual way of putting our offsets in there. Where we need to go, if you want it to manual or automatically come into here, you're going to go into your organization name over here on the right hand side, and then select the gear. So when you have this gear selected, this gives you pretty much all your organization offset needs. So if any of this information is wrong, you can click down on the edit, change it. But where we're going to be going first is we're going to be going into our settings. Now in settings, I'm going to scroll down. And where we get things where, so say my Gen 4 or my 2630 and my machine has the JD-Link connectivity on it already, or you're pulling this information in from a USB stick, you want to have this right here. It says overwrite equipment profile. So if you have zeros in there in your organization, you can do this automatically when this information is sent from your display to the cloud, and then it'll turn in and automatically pull in your offsets for you. So to do that, make sure it's showing on. But we'll go into edit, and it's a slide bar. So make sure that is slid over and is showing green for on. Also in here, if you want auto import boundaries, field detection, manual data routing, and auto path in there. For spring, you won't have to worry about auto path. This would be more like harvesting to have that selected. So we're gonna go and click on save after we have changed our settings, and then we'll go down into our terms conditions. So in terms and conditions, this is what was set out earlier this year, just to make sure everybody is up to date on all of this. So if you don't know, JD Link connectivity is now free. You'll just have to agree to the same rules and conditions that you've been agreeing to before. There's nothing new here. Deere is actually giving you something for free, so if you can, take it. So right here, if this is not, right now this is grayed out for me since it's already checked and I already agreed to it. If you don't have a check in that box, make sure you put a check in there, and that'll automatically allow information to flow in through JD Link connectivity. So make sure that's good, and then we'll go over here to import options. So in import options, if you guys are adding in, say if you're mid planting or so and you forgot to add in a variety, but you're going to need it for harvest, this is where you will want that to automatically come in. So if this is not selected, your combine, when you're making up your setup builder and your work planner, that product that you did in there for spring that you manually typed in there for the display will not come over in your setup files when you put it into the combine. So to make this work, you gotta make sure you go in the edit again and make sure it says always import, because it might say never import, which means it'll never pull in that information from that display via JD Link connectivity. So make sure it says always import. So we're happy with that, and we're gonna click on save. Now, what we're gonna do just to make sure that everything is showing up correctly in our JD Link connectivity, and to make sure that our machines are set up for it. So go into setup. This is just a double check. You don't need to go in here, but it's a double check. And then we'll go into terminals. So when terminal shows up, this is going to give you the list of the machines that you have in your account. And if you have old ones, let somebody know. We can pull them out for you. Or if they're old 2G ones, we can retire them out for you. But right here, so it's saying a 4G, 4G, 4G. So I want to see that this is saying JD Link connectivity. And right here in this list here, it says JD Link connectivity active. That's what we want to see. If it says inactive, that means the information is not going to be flowing in to Operations Center. So just make sure that that's good on that. But so we're going to go back in the map. And we already went over to add in a new implement. This is going to be the same way before. So we'll just click on add equipment. And then this is also where you enter in a tractor, a sprayer, or planter, just to reiterate. Okay, so we covered our machine implement offsets, making sure our implement and machine had the correct numbers in there for your section control would work. And then we went into our operation settings where we made sure the import option was turned on, the terms and conditions was turned on. And then we also went in the terminals to show, okay, this is where it shows my machines are JD Link enabled. So we covered those. Now what we're going to go into is the bulk boundary creator. What we're going to do is make boundaries, and this is what exactly it says. It makes a bulk batch based off of all the fields that you have in your operation center that have a previously working operation. So if anything in the past where you had either you planted or you harvested or you sprayed, or even if you already done some manual tillage documentation in there, this run boundary generator will make boundaries for that. Now, if these fields already have boundaries in them, this will not overwrite them, but it won't put anything to it either. So if you want to put, or if you want this generator to work, make sure you can get rid of all your boundaries that you want new ones to be created on. If you don't want that, then don't worry about it. It's not gonna overlap anything. Your previous boundaries will be okay. So that's the bulk one, and they're gonna be fine, but they're not gonna be precise. So if you want to make them precise, you may have to go in and edit the boundaries and create a better boundary. But now what we want to do is we want to go into land. So in land, this is where you can go into each individual field and make a boundary, or this is where you also do your editing. So if a field name is wrong or farm, or you need to add a new one, say if you just picked up some ground, or if you just lost some, this is where you can go and either archive things out, or this is where you can also add new things in. So say if I didn't want this test field anymore, or this one's gone, you just put a check in that box. And right here, these are kind of like your filter or your columns up here. You have fields, boundaries, guidance, and flags. So when I have field selected, anything over here, this is going to be based off of this. So if I wanted to archive the field, I'm going to click on archive and make sure that this is selected along with the field we want to get rid of. So if I wanted to archive that, I would just click on archive and this would disappear. The guys that are similar with Apex or familiar with Apex, this would be how you would do it in here. So I'm going to uncheck that. Say if somebody came in on either a hired hand or yourself, put it in the wrong field name or spelled it wrong, you would hit that arrow to the right and then you would type on it and then you would put in something else that you wanted or the correct name for it. So then you would click on save, but I don't want to change that, so I'm going to click on cancel. So we have field names, boundaries, guidance, and flags. So if I wanted to bring in a new field, I'm going to have this on field but details. Click over here, click on add. Now in an add, I have field, and then this is where this field is going to belong. So I'm going to click on the client, test client. This is also where you can add in a new client. So there's that. Farm, test farm, and then field name. So I'm going to put farm 25 in there. So I got farm 25, save. And then right now, so that's saved it. Now I want to enter in a boundary. So right here, what we talked about before, we had field details, and now we're going to go into boundaries to make a new boundary. So I have boundary selected. I'm going to click on add. So I'm going to do boundary, and then this is where we have also an option to do from a previous operation or draw new. So I'm going to click on draw new because I don't have anything in there. It's a new field. So I'm going to click on next. So in next, we have these tools over here. So this is a polygon tool. This is where it lets you select and make however you want the shape, circle, and then square. So for the lucky guys, they have the square. That's how you would do it. So we're going to make a new boundary. Say if I just want this section, this field split off. So I'm going to use the polygon tool. So select that, and then I'm going to go click, click, just drawing around, making this boundary the way that I need it based on that field. And then when I want to end it, I'm going to click on that white dot and it gives me the finger icon. So I'm going to select that, and that's going to make a pink shape, which is, this is the area that is going to be covered. So this is the one that I want. So I'm going to name it in here. So I'm just going to name it whatever I want, but I'm going to name it in field 25 again, just for matches. So this is where you can select things. So this is going to be an active boundary. So this is the one that's actually going to be getting used, or the inactive, irrigation, if it's irrigated. But anyways, now we're going to go down here, and this is going to be an exterior boundary. So if you want to make an interior boundary, so if the waterway is something you wanted things to turn off in there for these internal boundaries, which you've used in either RTK or SF3, that's where you want to use. So I'm going to click on save. So in save, that just made me field 25 boundary, and that is now active. So if I ever wanted to archive this or get rid of that first, this one here, we would just click on archive and then we get rid of it. But that is how you make a boundary. So we have this guidance lines if you wanted to put them in there, or flags if you wanted to enter them in. But that is the basics on how to do field boundaries. So that's all that I got. Now we'll go on to the next section.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jenna Elliman. I'm an integrated solutions consultant here at AgPro, and I cover most of Southern Ohio as well as our store in Kentucky. And now that Paul has taught us about how to clean up our operations center and set up our digital farms, let's dive into why you should actually use that setup data. So according to Deere's data, 6.5% of your unproductive time in the field is actually spent trying to get your display set up. So that's why we should go ahead and use some of these tactical tools. So let's take a look at those. First up, I want to talk a little bit about why you should use setup files or work planner. So first of all, garbage in equals garbage out. So if you're using a different field name every single year, or you have such a huge list on your display that it's old and daunting, then we want to get that taken care of. You want to be able to use this information in the future. So, and again, you want to save time when you're in the field when it really counts. Preload as much of this information as you can. Field names, products, equipment offsets, any reused guidance lines, boundaries, and so on. And then, of course, if you do load those boundaries, you have some options in terms of field locator to remind you to change that set of information and help you build a consistent set of data so that you can make more sound decisions. And then ultimately, we want to help you keep your data informative but not overwhelming. If you have so many fields and so much information in there, none of it's going to the right place, ultimately that data is going to become overwhelming for you and you're not going to use it to its full potential. So now that we've talked a little bit about how to do that, let's get into it. So now that I've told you why you should use those two tools to go ahead and preload the information on your display, let's dive into the nitty-gritty about how do you actually do that. So both of those tools are available for free on the John Deere Operations Center, which I'm showing here. I'm logged into the main map page. If you don't have your own Operations Center account yet, let us know. We can help hook you up, especially if you have a set of data from the past years that we can upload, even if it's not from a Deere display. A lot of times we can make you a setup file that way. So here is how you would do the setup file creator, which is the recommended method for 2630 displays or older displays. Gen 4s have a couple other options, but for 2630s or older, you're going to go to the setup file creator here. And then you'll see these kind of 6 areas across the top, and that's what we're going to want to focus on getting filled in here. So if we just start this process, click through, it'll take us through each of these steps. So your first step, go ahead and choose your display type. In this case, say we have a 2630, and we're going to go ahead and send a setup file to that. And then we're going to give it a file name. We're just going to call it Spring 2022. But if you're going to make separate ones for each machine, you could put your machine name in there. However you want to do it, you just need to give it a name so you know what it is. And then in this case, you can either create a new one or create from an existing file. So we always recommend to use create new, just so you can make sure you're selecting the cleanest data set possible. But if you say forgot to add one field that you've added this year and you just need to go back and clean that up, you can do that as a create from existing as well. In this case, we'll go through create new so we can go through all the steps together. Then you're just going to hit start down here in the bottom right hand corner. And then you'll see the land tab come up first. So you can see over here to the left hand side, you have this filter. You can filter out to these different client farm fields if you need to, or if you've already gone in and cleaned up all of your fields and boundaries like Paul taught you to do earlier, you can come in here and just go ahead and select all of your assets. So this select assets up here, I'm going to go ahead and select all the fields. If you want to go ahead and select your boundaries, that way you can use field locator or use section controller on those boundaries. If you have them recorded, you can go ahead and pick your boundaries here too. If you have any flags or guidance tracks you want to reuse, you could select those here as well. Now, if we are, in this case, creating a planting, so this doesn't necessarily apply, but if you have run AutoPath, you could go ahead and select your source operation here. Say if you're creating your setup file for the sprayer after you've done planting, or if you're creating for your combine, you could do your variety locator using your spring planter maps. If you do happen to come across a field that you forgot to add for whatever reason, you can go down here to the bottom and hit add field. I'm going to go on to the next step here, which is our equipment. And then what we'll see here is machine and implement. So for a setup file, it is going to make you pick both a machine and an implement. So in this case, I just have a dummy test tractor in here we're going to use. And I also just have a test planter in here. I'm going to pick same thing here. If you did forget to add your equipment before you got into the setup file, you can do that here with your add equipment. So step 3 is done. We're going to go ahead and move on to step 4, which is products. So these products should be loaded in here, anything you've used in the past, depending on what your organization preferences are. Or you can, like the other steps, add a product down here at the bottom if it's not in this list. And then you can filter out over here your chemicals and varieties. Any tank mixes would be on this tab, but for now, we're just going to stick to varieties. We're going to assume we're not going to make any planting applications. It's just heavy seed. So I'll just pick varieties. You can go ahead and select all those, or you could go down and just individually select whatever ones you want to use. And then we're going to move on to our operators. You do not have to select operators unless you want to, but you can go ahead and do that on this page. We're going to pick John Smith. Again, add operator at the bottom if you missed that step. So now we're on to step 6, which is just the summary, and then where we just hit create file. So if you go through here, it'll give you the number of fields, boundaries, machines, products, operators, everything that you're going to send, just kind of a generic overview. If everything seems okay, you're just going to go over here and hit create file. Now, at this point, if you wanted, you could go ahead and send it to any of your JD Link enabled machines. In this case, I don't have any connected because of the way our dealer account's set up, but you could hit create and send down here at the bottom. Just pick whatever machine you want to send that to. Or in this case, I'll just go ahead and hit create without sending here. So what it's going to do is going to pull it up in this list here. It should be the one on top. And then you'll see this green arrow pop up next to it, just like this one I did earlier, when it's ready to download. If you don't want to sit and wait, you can stay on this page. You can go to files. And that'll jump you right to the files page where you will see that just created setup file there. Now, if you forget or you need to come back and get it later, you can also go to more and then files, and it'll bring you into the same page where we have that information coming in here. So in most cases, if you're going to manually transfer, I would recommend that you choose your setup file and download, and then use the John Deere Data Manager. And you may have to download the Data Manager, but that's going to allow you to just plug your USB in, and then the Data Manager program will worry about what format that needs to be in on the USB drive so that it will import correctly into your display. So that's the easiest way to download once you've created a setup file. If you have any questions, grab your IS consultant and let us know. We will now move on to how to do a work planner setup. For work planner setup, it's important to know that that is only for Gen 4 displays. So work planner is not compatible with 2630s, only Gen 4s. So to use work planner, a little bit different area here, we're going to go to plan and then work planner. And you'll see this come up over here. If you have any plans already, they'll show up in here, but if not, you can just choose whatever action it is you're going to plan for. So in this case, we'll use seating as an example. And we would just go up here to hit plan seating. And let's just use test field 2 as an example here. So you just pick whatever fields you want to plan work for. So if you're going to use the same rates or anything across the fields, you could do that. And you're going to hit next. You're going to choose what crop you're going to plant in that field this year. Say we're going to do corn. We're going to select a variety here. I'm just going to pick a random one out of this list that pops up here first. And then you can actually go ahead and set up your rate if you would like with work planner in here. So you can go ahead and choose seeds per acre, even go in different units there if you need to change it for any reason. And then if you were going to make any applications at planning, you could add that in as well, but we're going to assume not in this case. If you had any guidance tracks you want to send, you could pick that here. And then just like we did in the setup file creator, we're just going to go ahead and pick all of our equipment and operators. And then if you were, say, doing some custom work, you could put in a work order here if you have one, and then work instructions that you want that operator to see inside of there. Say you want to leave a note for that operator to watch out for the blow hole, you can go ahead and do that. And then you're just going to hit save, and that will pull it into this list here of what work you have planned. Now, what you can do is just go ahead and select these. If you needed to edit anything, you could do that, or you can just go ahead and send to the equipment. It'll pull up any of your connected machines here. If you don't have one, just hit send, and it'll actually create that file, and will show up in the files page just like before. So here you can see that's the one we made in Work Planner, while this is the one that we made in Setup File Creator. So they have a little bit different naming conventions by default, but you can change those, customize those. And then what you can do with Work Planner is actually go back. And once you get those fields planted, you could go ahead and mark them as completed. So this will remove it since it's already been documented, and now it will show up in your Analyze tools. And you can just hit complete. For Work Planner, the other thing to note is that it will actually pop up on the display if you have those boundaries loaded. So as soon as you cross into a new field, it would pop up alerting the operator to accept the new changes for Work Planner. So keep that in mind as you're planning your work for this spring to make things go a little bit smoother while we still have some time here in the less busy season. So obviously we've covered a lot of information in a short period of time here today in terms of the IS session. So we want you to know that our IS team is here to support you in whatever way we can. So we do have some annual support packages that we offer, different phone support packages, Operations Center orientation packages with 4 farm visits, which also includes our phone support, and then our spring and fall setup packages where we would actually come out to your farm and help you set up your displays, do any software updates, help you measure offsets. Those types of things would be included in those packages. So our IS team does have some brochures with our support packages in them here today. If you would like one, please be sure to grab one or come up and talk to us after the clinic or in between sessions, and we'll be happy to help you out. We do have some other subscriptions and services I'll just point out here really quickly. SF2 and 3 subscriptions have not changed, or RTK subscriptions prices have not changed this year. If you're interested in doing that, let us know. One other thing to note, if you haven't picked up on it yet, is that JD Link Connect. That's the JD Link subscription that will actually do wireless data transfer or data sync, is now free. So if you have a JD Link modem in your machine, let's make sure that we've got that turned on for you to make your life a little bit easier in terms of that. And it's just some other a la carte services, but those are in the brochure as well, or you can visit our website to see those. So I mentioned our phone support. We do have a centralized IS hotline here. So this is, we call it 24/7 support with our IS consultants. It doesn't mean that we'll be awake all the time, but you do have the option to call us, leave a voicemail, send a text message all the time. But you can choose that way to ring our entire team at once, or to choose your local consultant. So, say one of your consultants is really busy at one point in the spring, but another one of us, it's rained out, because we are kind of spread out throughout the state. Help us spread that work out, as well as track any issues that are ongoing, so we can keep tabs on those and keep you updated. We will also send you text alerts for any of our upcoming Ag Pro events related to IS. And then you have the option to download the Expert Connect app. You don't have to, but you can if you want to go in and create your own tickets that way. But it is a centralized number here. If you have an iPhone, you can scan this QR code, or you can take this number down, 330-667-5585, and that will be our centralized hotline that you can call to reach us when you need assistance. So if you have any questions, feel free to grab your IS consultant, have a chat with us, and we look forward to seeing you.